Welcome back to Bad Attitude C-10. Today, well, we're going to kind of be putting the engine back together. I had taken it to a shop that I'd never used before, and after a 2-month ordeal turned into almost an 8-month ordeal, I went and picked my engine back up. Well, they said my block was bad. They said the crank had to be turned. The whole reason we bought this engine was because it was in good running condition, and they said the block had a split in the water jackets from one side to another. I don't know. I didn't mark them because I had several people tell me this place was good. Normally I'd stamp them, that way it wouldn't get mixed up or stolen. I'm not going to mention the shop's name, not doing anything like that. But after telling a few people and sharing what happened to me, I found out that a lot of people have been having issues with this shop, and some people even blew their motors up at a later period, took the motors apart, and the parts that they originally paid to be put in those engines weren't even there. So that kind of scared me. When I picked it up, one of the things they gave me back was the extra retainer for the oil pickup. I know a lot of you guys are going to say, hey, it ain't needed anyway. I'm just doing it. Better be safe than sorry. So after that, hearing about the engine components not being proper, I wanted to pull the pan off and go ahead and be sure my rods were in there. So the rods are there. We're going to go ahead and double check the torque on them. The engine was dirty, dude. I'll put a picture of the front cover and stuff. I can't believe a shop would even let this go out. And I paid over $1,700 for machine work. The heads were already done. That was just in labor of the block and assembling their short block and putting a keyway for my balancer on the crank. So let's get to checking the torque, putting this thing back together.
All right, guys, before we get started, I wanted to share some of the components that we did use in the build of the engine. We bought some LS7 style trick flow specialty lifters. The pistons came from Summit. We had a Howard's hydraulic roller cam. The specs can be seen here. Eagle H-beam rods, BTR push rods, and we did check push rod length before we purchased them. ARP head bolts. We did find a set of $7.99 heads that were done up by LMR, which is Late Model Racecraft down in Houston. ALME does their port work. The flow chart is as seen. And then we finished it up with a SFI approved JEG harmonic balancer. The block is a factory 6.0 and the crank is a factory 6.0 crank as well.
So here's what I'm looking at. That is what the whole front cover looked like when I got this engine back. And if you notice, I started cleaning it up some. So this side does look a little better, but I mean, if you pay $1,700 for machine work to get done and shit comes back like that, there's overspray on my heads that wasn't there before. And the block itself, if you notice, this is how it came to me. Rust, dirty. So the good thing is my rods are in there. So the H-beam rods made it, and it appears the pistons are there. But one of the things that I wanted done to this was, if you notice where your oil pickup is, there's actually 2 threaded holes. And I know there's other retainers already on it and everything like that. Some people say that you don't need to put a secondary bolt in, but I'll pick this guy up. I mean, all you have to do is put it in that little hole right there. It's a little reassurance that my pickup tube wouldn't come out, and it wasn't done. So what we're gonna do now is I'm gonna go ahead and double check all of the torque on the rod bolts. And once that's done, we're gonna wipe off this oil pan and reinstall the oil pan and a couple of other things. All right, guys, so what we're gonna do is I got a 7/16 4-point socket, and I got the torque wrench set to 75 foot-pounds, which is what ARP recommends for their connection rod bolts. Now, these guys were originally assembled. We're just double checking the torque to be sure they're proper. So they already do have the lube added to them and everything like that. and the goal was 75 foot-pounds. So we're gonna double check and be sure that's where they're at. I'm sure most of you know these are marked, and you'll see where it says rear. So that goes to the rear of the engine, of course. All right, guys, before I put the windage tray retaining nuts on and torque them down, I'm gonna make sure which standoffs for the pickup tube go on which stud that's already there. That way I don't have to remove them after torquing them down. Once I figure out which two they are, I'm gonna go ahead and put the nuts on upside down. So up next, we're going to put the retaining bolts in for our oil pickup. And after we do that, I will show you a quick pic of how the second one goes in. And these guys will be torqued at 106 inch-pounds. With the pickup screen bolts to oil pump now torqued, we're going to torque our nuts for our pickup tube windage tray supports that we had on upside down earlier. Alright guys, so here is our oil pump pickup screen. If you notice, that's the factory, and then right down here, the aluminum washer that's had a step and the bolt retaining it. Now, a lot of people are going to say that's not needed because you already have this bolt and this bolt over here that helps support your pickup. But others say that that O-ring can be crooked and cause some bypass and some, oil pickup problems in the future. So I'm just being safe. So let's get the oil pan buttoned up. So up next, what I'm going to do is, since I have this in the position it is, I need to drill the crank for the Torque Storm centrifugal supercharged drive pulley. We get this little adapter that we're going to bolt onto the crank that has two holes in it where we can drill two dowel pin holes. The instructions state that they want you to basically mark it to be 0.850 of the drill bit. So here's what we did. Now we'll just be drilling that deep into our crank. Again, I'm going to use a screwdriver in one of the dowels to keep it lined up in the position I want. So I'm gonna go ahead and love tap this other dowel pin in there real quick. Alright, they recommend putting red Loctite on this, but for right now, I'm just going to put this in there and be sure that this even fits properly. Alright guys, since we ran into some hiccups doing our torque storm adapter, we have to call them during the week to find out what the hell. I did pick up an ICT billet valley pan tray cover, so we'll go ahead and install it. So up first, we'll put the gasket on, as the instructions say. Then we'll place the pan. Then we'll use the hardware with countersinking machine screws that are in the kit, and go ahead and get it all torqued down. Alright guys, up next we're going to go ahead and double check the torque on our ARP head bolts. So I'm going to do the smaller ones up top first and just run down them, and they're supposed to be at 50 foot-pounds. Those were all about a quarter turn off. All right, now that we did the smaller ones near the valley pan at 50, we're going to double check all the rest of them. They're supposed to be at 75 pounds. All right, guys. So up next, what I did was I went on ahead and rotated our engine until I got number 1 to TDC on the compression stroke. The way I found this out was when I rotated the engine around, I watched the intake valve. When the intake valve closed, I then brought number 1 up to TDC. That means it is, on the compression stroke. So on the compression stroke, I got this little bitty cheat sheet. I don't know if y'all can read this or not, but basically with number 1 up on the compression stroke, I can tighten cylinders 1, 2, 7, and 8 exhaust, and 1, 3, 4, 5 intake. So that's what we're going to get started on. Now with that being done, we're going to rotate the crank 360 degrees. And we are back at top dead center. So now we'll go through and we will torque the second set, which is going to be right down here after rotating the engine 360 degrees. Can you read those? Alright, so it says tighten the exhaust on 3, 4, 5, and 6, and the intake on 2, 6, 7, and 8. So let's get to it. And hey guys, just so y'all know, we did have a push rod length checker installed on this to make sure we got the right length push rod. Anytime you change your cam or have head work done, or if you're walking today, double check your push rod just to be safe. Alright guys, I got ahead of myself. The camera shut off again and I didn't catch it. So here's what we're doing. We're going to go ahead and install our valve covers now. The kit comes with these little standoffs that you screw in, and then the hardware for the valve cover screws in down. Put a little dab of red Loctite on, and we're putting it down to 106 inch-pounds. Alright guys, so here's what the valve covers look like. The valve covers I originally picked up are from Speedmaster, and they're just cast aluminum. So I took them to my guy that does clear coating for guns. He also does powder coating. And I had him powder coat them black, and we went on ahead and put Tommy's Bad Attitude Racing Engine logo on it. So that way it kind of matches the theme of the truck. So one thing I'm realizing I don't like a lot about this on this LS stuff, and this is my first LS motor ever, I do not like these O-rings that you have to put on these valve covers. So hopefully when my internet gets back on, I can go and do some checking, and I can find out that there is a one-piece valve cover that you can use that has this laid on it. And these things start feeling pretty snug way before they torque. So I'm thinking I'm just going to snug these down to where they feel pretty good for now. And let them set. And I'll come back out, check them again in the future. That's what she's going to look like. Alright guys, so luckily everything checked out to be right, and they did put proper parts on their engine, excluding it being a little more dirty than we expected. Hopefully all turns out well. I'll contact Torque one day this week to find out what's up with the mandrel or the adapter for our crank pulley not fitting in the balancer, which that kind of sucks because I already drilled it. But anyway, the other particulars on this, we do have, like I said, the Eagle H-beam rods, and I mentioned the length of them. The pistons are actually 10.8 to 1 compression, 30 over. We picked them up for Summit for the smaller diameter pin and the longer rod. The camshaft is from Howard's Racing Cams, and I'll put a picture of the cam card for it up. So, in addition to what we've just completed, I'll go ahead and put a steam port kit on it and the intake the next time I see y'all. Internet is out. That's why we haven't done any uploads lately, so I apologize. But other than that, that's going to wrap this one up. Any questions you may have, contact me at texasdragracer@yahoo.com. Please like and subscribe.